All right. Joe Kent. Thank you for being with us.
Derek, thank you.
I was telling you in the green room, if you will. I don't really know what Grassroots Institute is.
First of all, it's Grassroot.
Grassroot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a common. It's because we have this philosophy at Grassroot Institute, which is that everything starts with the individual.
Okay.
And so that, we want people to take responsibility individually and try to improve society, as individuals rather than sort of this collective thing. So Grassroot Institute. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the singularity of it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's important to kind of the message behind the name, right?
That's right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, the way I don't know. You guys are like 9,000 followers on Instagram and
10,000 today.
10,000?
Right? Almost.
Oh, it's going fast. Because when I looked not long ago, it's still in the 8s.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you said something, or we said something. I don't know, but I know that we've exchanged a couple comments. And what I love about it is I was like, oh, seems like an unusual voice in Hawaii. One. I'm not sure where they lie politically, but it seems like maybe not the standard mantra that's echoed in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And then I've also seen something, and I don't remember what it was, that I didn't agree with either. And I like that too.
Yeah.
I wish I remember what it was, but I like that as well.
And we don't want to just, we're not a politician, we don't want to just say things that will get us elected or something.
Sure.
We're trying to say the truth, and the truth as we see it. And the way we view the world basically is you own your life, you own your body, you own your property, and you should be able to do pretty much what you want with that as long as you're not infringing on the rights of others. And so we
Sounds libertarian-ish.
That's right.
You can swing your arm as far as you want as long as it doesn't touch the nose of someone else.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we focus mostly on economic issues, but we're friendly to libertarian issues, small L, not big L, because again, we're not political.
Yeah.
But we
you guys
also
don't adopt a title,
right. And we're independent. We don't take any money from the government or the unions or anything like that, because we want the flexibility to be able to say when the emperor isn't wearing any clothes, right?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. We got into what Grassroot is, and what we're gonna focus on that. Who are you? I put out an Instagram post today, or a story, and I was like, "Hey, I'm bringing on this guy. I think he's an economist. I'm not really sure. What questions do you guys have?" And so I thought must be an economist.
People think I'm an economist, but I'm not. I study and have a passion for economics, but I'm really an explainer of economics.
Okay.
And we have great minds on our staff, and researchers and economists on our Grassroot Board of Scholars, and they come up with all the research, and I'm trying to relay that in a way that most people can understand. Mm-hmm. So, my background is as a public school teacher. I was,
You were saying elementary?
Elementary.
Okay, my wife taught mostly third grade. She taught every grade in elementary, but a lot of third grade.
And
interesting.
I taught K through 5 music, actually. And so I played ukulele and guitar and piano, and I had a choir. I taught on Maui.
I love how you don't fit in a box, because people tell me, like, wait, you were military and then Coast Guard and then X-ray. How do you become a realtor?
Yeah.
But also the people who don't know that are like, wow, this guy knows his stuff, like really analytical and into finance, etc. But I'm like, because methods are many, principles are few. Methods vary, principles never do, right? And I'm obsessed with the thing I'm doing. I'm totally obsessed. So when I was obsessed with X-ray, I was a great X-ray tech. Now I'm obsessed with real estate. So you seem to share a passion, obsession. You get into something. Everyone thinks you're an economist, and you're a music teacher by training.
Well, and when I left teaching, I had so many people saying, "What are you doing? You're in this box.
Yes.
You can't go in that box, right?"
Crabs in a bucket.
And
you ever heard it? Maybe not so negative, but people get insecure when you're gonna break out of the mold. It makes them feel a little uncomfortable.
But what better than a kindergarten?
Thanks for bearing with me. New studio. New processes or lack thereof in here, so we're gonna re-hit on the rail. So what I I said, let's bring up something hot. Let's talk about the rail. And my thing about the rail, I was on the main line, and the whole idea, I was still living on the main line. I joined the Coast Guard, I stationed there, and then I stayed for longer than I intended. So in my 20s and in my 30s, I'm on the main line, and I hear about this rail. And for the most part, local people, especially like I grew up in Eva, and so my friend group tended to be more leeward, and they're like, the people who might benefit from the rail the most, right, from Eva to town.
Right, sure.
But they're like, no way. Like, I'll drive my Suburban with one kid inside all the way to town. I ain't doing no rail.
Everybody wants everyone else to ride the rail so they can
Except for-
drive.
Yeah. But I was on the main line where they had a subway, and I
Yeah.
was like, a train, a rapid transit, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, it's more efficient. Maybe you ride your bike, you get more heart healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You have more time with your family. You can educate yourself on other things. Like, there's all, it's eco-friendly. So
Yeah.
mga the ocean. There's all these reasons why the rail could be in line with Hawaii values if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got home and I'm like, as time went on, as I drive under this thing over here on Cam Highway, and I'm like, kind of ugly.
Yeah.
I can kind of see why local people weren't for it. And I'm not totally against it now. I'm just more of a we'll see. Also,
Yeah.
I don't want to introduce solutions to necessarily to bring, and it's hypocritical of me, right? I sell real estate. But I don't want to introduce solutions to just bring tens and tens of thousands of non-local people here to Hawaii and just dilute what is Hawaii, what is our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm open to provocative conversation. I'll oftentimes tell you I have two different views that oppose each other and contradict each other. I'm for the free economy and capitalism. Also, I want to kind of keep Hawaii. So what's up with the rail? Hawaii is over budget, right?
It's way, way over budget. This is
You were saying 2 to 3, but now it's 10 million?
It was supposed to be around $2 to
billion.
$3 billion back when it was proposed around 2007 or so, and then it grew to over $10 billion. Now they've kind of shaved it down to $10 billion, but it's still way over budget. It was supposed to be finished in 2019, and now it's not going to be finished until 2031. And so
I thought it was supposed to start running next month.
It's going to the stadium. But
what?
So they're running it from where it starts out to the stadium.
That's what's going to happen?
And the stadium is being demolished. So
if you want to go Ice Palace from Eva, they got you.
That's right.
If you want to go ice skating, they got you.
I know. But if you want to go to Ala Moana, you have to wait a few years. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And it's not only, was it a big thing is to go to the university?
Yes, it was supposed to go to the university originally, and they've had to cut it back. It was supposed to go to Ala Moana. It's not even going there. It's stopping in around Ward area, so you have to walk the last few blocks to get there. So
I'm sure they'll probably come up with some shuttle, a constant shuttle train that just loops.
But it's
to
not
these places.
The thing is, it's not necessarily that it's going to be quicker. People think, oh, this is going to make it quicker getting to downtown or something. But, think about this. You have to drive a car to the rail. Then you park your car. You get on the rail. Now you're now you're riding the rail to a stop somewhere. You get off the stop. You get on a bus. And now you get to your destination. And
Sounds
at the
like
end
my
of
life
all
in
of
California.
that, right, it might actually have been quicker to just drive in the first place.
Yeah.
For some people, it will be. So there's winners and losers, and of course, the taxpayers are losers big time on this. We're going to be paying for this for decades and decades.
And so when we had our technical difficulty, I asked you, I heard that there's a surplus in the state, but you're saying we're in debt. So what's...
Yeah. So the surplus is at the state level. The debt is at the county level, and the county is racking up all this debt to pay for the rail, and interest rates are going up right now. So
Who's
that means
the debt to? The rail company, the contractor.
It's bonds.
Oh,
so
we're issuing bonds.
Yes, we're selling bonds, and then it's bought by a bank or something, and then they.
Or China.
So
does China own a lot of them?
I don't think so,
Okay.
But anyways, so. That's just like a credit card. It's debt. You have to pay on the interest for that debt, and that means more money is going to interest than roads, bridges, and other, schools and things like that. And so we're paying a lot of money. The county was actually trying to sweep the debt off the books. We found at Grassroot, they were trying to say that, oh, the rail is this other thing, and it's not us city, so don't ding us when it comes to our bond rating. But the bond rating agencies actually came in and said, no, we see that debt there too, that counts. Wow. And so they downgraded the city's bond rating. So the bond rating goes down, interest rates go up, the payments on the debts go up, and taxpayers lose. So it's kind of complicated, but basically it's a financial pit.
Yeah. What could they? Who built the rail? Like we hired a company in Texas to be the foreman. How does that work? Because everyone's like, why don't I just go to Japan and say, Japanese train builders, come build us a train?
Well, actually, we went to Italy. The rail
you
cars.
don't ever go to Italy to build a car. They're nice and expensive, but you don't want to own those.
The rail cars are built in Italy.
Jeez.
There's a bunch of different construction companies. Pacific Resource Partnership is one of them, and they built the rail technically. But
wow.
This is the most expensive rail project in the world per capita.
What?
If you look at
per capita, so what does that mean? Per.
So $10 billion divide by
the humans,
1 million adults, or 1.4 million people on Oahu, right?
Okay.
And that's north of $9,000 per person or something like that, which is the most expensive rail project in the world.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's wow. And it's gonna stop it all. It will eventually get to Ala Moana.
No, it's stopping short of Ala Moana, but
eventually it's a war.
Now the thing is, everyone needs to watch is when it's finished, right? In 2031, will we hear calls for the rail to go more? We need to finish the rail to Ala Moana, and we also need to make it go past Ala Moana or up to the university or whatever, because any calls like that, we have to remember what happened on the first time. They said it was going to cost this and it cost that. So now, there's not really too much point in getting too mad about it now at this point, because it's built,
we're
it's going,
right?
We're committed. So
what would it cost to tear it down?
It might actually cost more at this point to tear it down than to although you could leave it as a monument to mistakes, right? Yeah.
I think my uncle guys could tear them down for cheaper.
Oh yeah. I know. You go online, and a lot of people say, "Oh, we should build houses on the rail, or we should make it like a bike track or something."
The most expensive bike path in the world too. Whatever you do with it, it's the most expensive in the world, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Geez. So why so expensive? Was it just mismanaged, or do we have some politicians did Nancy Pelosi's husband have stock in the rail? Costing more?
Part of it is it just costs more to build in Hawaii, period.
Okay.
Even if you just try to build a house, why is housing more expensive here, right? And why are groceries more? It's just more expensive. And so when they were doing the cost calculations, they were using the mainland numbers, right? And they forgot to add in the Hawaii multiplier. And so that's part of it. Part of it is corruption. I mean, we've seen,
has there been cases where black and white, irrefutable, you were getting greased for the rail? You had relationships that benefited you for the rail, right?
Not overt. Yeah. Right now, there have been audits done, and the FBI right now is in the midst of an investigation into corruption at the rail, but we haven't seen anything come to light. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, so we haven't seen really big, fraud, waste, and abuse. We've seen waste and abuse, but we haven't seen any fraud or anything like that. So, and so, it's part of it is just government mismanagement as well, and part of it is, they started the rail over in Ewa side. And then
right by Ho'opili, new construction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they started where it was easiest to build, and then they want to end it where it's hardest to build. You know, if you really wanted to do it and commit to it, you would start where it's hardest to build.
And where it would get the most, like if you had to call the project, just right there, call it.
Right.
Ala Moana to Ward, Waikiki to Kalihi, where like
Yeah.
boom, yeah, that's a city thing.
Yeah.
It's a
that's
city
right.
like
It's right in
in
downtown
the San Francisco
core.
Bay Area. They don't go out into Stockton with the train; they go amongst
Yeah.
the metro area.
And so they built way out in the countryside, and then now, you know, to stop it now, they say, "Oh, look, we already built the whole thing, so why do we stop it?" But it's going into, you know, the most expensive place in the world, almost, in one of the most litigious cities in America, you know, and so.
Are we one of the most litigious
Oh
cities?
yes, yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of already litigation around eminent domain, which is where
Yeah.
the government takes your land to build a project, you
Sure.
know, and
Yeah, there are real estate investors strategizing to buy a home in the path of the rail so that they could experience eminent domain and profit from it.
whoa, I never heard of that.
Because usually
Wow.
governments are known to be wasteful.
Yeah,
So
that's
you have
right.
a $600,000 tear down house. The government does this thing and says, here's $1 million. And so if
Wow.
you can, yeah. I have some clients. Eminent domain is something you read about and you do in real estate school because you're a real estate agent, right? You're probably never going to see it in your career. I just had a client, the government of Virginia, state of Virginia, took their house because they're doing a bridge and they needed their house for not even to put like a pillar, but they just needed it for like a staging area for the equipment or something. And so it was, the house was probably
Wow.
worth 700. They got, I forgot the house. No, he said the house was probably worth like 500. They got like 1.3 million or
Wow.
something like that. Something
Wow.
crazy. And then the government would give them a amount of cash for the difference in interest rates. So their home that they had there
wow.
was on 3%, and the new home was going to be on 6%. And so I was like, so do you need the worst rate possible is what you're telling me? And my lenders too were like, I've never experienced this. Someone wants the worst rate possible.
Wow.
Governments, again, I'm on like a trend. They're not efficient. And so people were trying to buy houses in the path of the rail.
Wow.
There were seminars on it years ago.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I agree with you. Why start in Eva? And why not start in town, right?
Yeah.
Isn't there a thing too where like one of the big obstacles to traversing town is our outdated water main system and getting the rail over some of these water main points? I heard that.
I've heard that too. That they did a study on ways to save money with the rail, and you know, part of it is shifting Mauka, the area that's leading into downtown. But I don't know if that had to do with, you know, water and sewer and avoiding all of the problems that you'd have to face there. But yeah.
Okay.
So rail is just part of life now. It's going to be even bigger part of life on Oahu, but you know, it's already been a part of life just as far as cost of living. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the most expensive place to live in the United States, and rail has made it more expensive.
Wow.
And we already have the highest taxes, you know, in many areas. We have the lowest property taxes.
We have the lowest property tax percentage.
We have the lowest property tax
Alabama
rates.
is lower. Alabama is one of the lowest rates, but then the real estate's so much less expensive
That's
that they
right.
are the effective lowest, but we
Right.
are the lowest percentage, right?
Right. The lowest rates, but the highest values.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of balances out when you do the calculus. I mean, the average amongst Hawaii homeowners is about the same as the average on the mainland as far as the nominal property tax rate. It's a little lower, but it's on par.
Okay.
And so if we are to raise property taxes, though, you're raising property taxes then on people who might be house rich but cash poor.
Well, we have that. So I had on my real estate channel, I had on Dr. Andrea Tupola, and we also just exchanged some comments, and I was like, hey, you want to come in? She's like, yeah. I was like, oh, wow, amazing. But a couple of things she talked about with taxes were truth in taxation or transparency in taxation. So we have work to do and being clear on why we're taxed, how much we're taxed, etc. And it's not something we really discuss. It's just the government's the government. But also in California, because I lived in California, you would get your property tax rate, then it would be locked in. And so it wouldn't go up with your home's assessed value. So you could have a fixed living expense. Also, you could pass it down to your grandkids, like to your kids. Like there were certain rules as someone who was within a certain proximity of your family, maybe first cousins and niece. I'm not sure, but you could pass your home down. If you sold it to your family member, you kept that old tax rate. They could keep that old tax rate. So if my mom in California gave me the house or I bought it from her, I might pay 1970s tax rates, which is huge.
Right.
Now, I understand Hawaii also needs to make money. I know someone, he prefers to remain anonymous. We can talk about it offline, but I know someone who is in the tax world with the city, and he's like, yeah, Derek, but we got to make money too. So who can pay for the schools, et cetera? And I'm like, okay, I get it.
Well, the part though.
One thing, what I feel most bad for is like the kupuna, the older people on a fixed income, and as these housing prices go up, they're pushed out of Hawaii. So I would maybe be open to like anything past the age of 55, your tax rate's fixed or something, maybe an adjustable thing. I don't know, but I just want to protect the people that cannot just work harder. You know, like, okay, go work harder, get some, like they're older, they're not going to earn more income.
Well, property taxes in Hawaii don't go to the schools, first of all. So
okay,
that's a common misconception, by the way.
He may have said something different, but he was like, who's going to pay for certain things?
Right, yeah. But that is a big point, though, because people say, oh, you guys have low property tax rates here, you know, so why don't you raise it like they do on, like, just like on the mainland? Well, the thing is, they're low because we're paying for everything but schools at the county level. And so the counties are the ones that collect those property taxes. So anyways.
Because Maui County, like Honolulu County, they're different, right?
In Hawaii, we have a state property tax, or a state school system, excuse me. We have county property taxes are only leveled at the county level. Yeah. And so that's a little nuance. But basically, you know, on Kauai, they've capped the amount of tax that the amount that the tax can go up. And so basically what they do is if taxes surge, you know, the property assessed values surge too much, then they actually cap that. They don't just take all the new money of the assessed values. And so that protects.
Kauai would be the island to do that. Yeah.
Oh, why is that, do you think?
The culture of Kauai is very like, don't come here, don't stay, don't even shoot videos, don't even talk about Kauai. And like, very like, we're small, we're homogenous, there's only 80,000 of us or whatever, and we got to take care of each other. And I could see why Kauai would be the island that figures that out. Yeah.
But on Oahu, though, we've had a huge surge in our assessed values. You know, prices are going up for homes. And now that's translating into property tax bills. And so people are getting bills in the mail like, what's this? You know, and
you can appeal each year, but you got to appeal by the deadline. And you have to have like, it's kind of like an appraisal of sorts. You got to explain why my house isn't worth.
Right. And so, you know, there's an argument about we don't want to tax these people, you know, we should tax these people more or something. But, you know, for my stance is just, you know, keep taxes low across the board. I just view people as people, no matter who they are, and try to maintain the same standard, I guess, when it comes to taxation. So
interesting. Yeah, there's going into the whole tax thing. There's a few things coming up. Like, there's a bill that's up where they want to issue a crazy tax to people who don't live in there, like who keep a vacant home. Right. Is that bill 9 or 4? Like,
I don't know about.
I forget which one, but if you have a home that sits vacant for more than half the year, then it was like 3% of the value of the home or something. Like that's a lot. Yeah. You know, it's for $1 million home that sits vacant for half the year. So a snowbird who's like. But I get it. So they're like, oh, you go live in Florida or Puerto Rico, pay no estate tax, but come here for just less than half the year so you can experience Hawaii. And meanwhile, we have people who don't have homes. Our homes are expensive. Free up the homes for us. And I get that. Like, I have a heart too. I understand. but principally, I don't tend to like when policies go in that direction.
Well, this whole idea that we can tax our way to a more affordable Hawaii.
Yeah.
You can't make Hawaii more affordable by increasing taxes. It's like this movie I saw when I was a kid. I think it was a Twilight Zone, where there was this monkey claw, and you could wish on it, and then it would like move, right? And every time you made a wish, then something bad, like you'd get your wish, but
Jumanji,
then another bad thing, like Jumanji,
Yeah.
another bad thing would happen. So that's the same thing with taxes.
Yeah.
Is okay, we're going to raise taxes over here, but then it's going to come out over there. So with
Same with printing of money, right?
Right,
Quantitative
absolutely.
easing and the
free
inflation it
money,
causes.
right? Exactly. But it robs from your savings, So how do you do that? So,
Yeah.
but this whole idea about empty homes too, that if we just, tax empty homes out of existence, then somehow people will rent those to people who are looking for affordable homes or something. I don't think that's going to happen. In fact, we just did a study recently where we looked across the nation and at all the states that have, high vacancy rates. Hawaii's vacancy rate is, semi-high.
Yeah.
And we have high home prices. But if you go to most other states, they have high vacancy rates and they have low home prices. Mm-hmm. And so it's not necessarily the case that if you have high vacancies, you're going to have, high home prices. I mean, the vacant homes in Hawaii are just a small portion of the overall total. And the main problem is that we just aren't building any more homes.
I think this person told me that they did a study and showed that like 10% of the homes in Hawaii aren't used for half the year or more, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But also, they're counting condos, right? So condos in town, condos in Waikiki, etc. And so I wonder how that adjusts when you go single family.
Right.
And a lot of people who live in single family would rather live with 2-3 families in the house than go live in a town condo anyway. So it's never so simple.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But 10%'s a lot. I mean, I don't know if you've done those numbers. You can't be prepared for everything we're going to talk about.
I don't have that.
But I think he's like 1 out of every 10. And I was like, seriously? I was like, no way. Because we sell houses, we show houses. We're not walking up and down streets and seeing 1 out of every 10 vacant.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you got to figure condos. And I was like, okay. But that also changes the conversation if that's true. But, Hawaiians need a place to stay. So,
and think about people who are trying to sell their house too. That's a lot of times vacant. Sometimes it'll be vacant for a long time, and now you're going to raise taxes on them too. And so, they did try to do this in Vancouver. They hiked taxes in Vancouver, and I think it did lead to lower rents there. But there's no guarantee that could happen here. And even if it did happen, it's not. We need homes regardless, right? Mm-hmm. And so what happens is the problem is whenever we talk to people about building homes and the need for more housing, then they say, "Oh, but we've got these other scapegoats, like, if only outsiders would stop buying the homes, and if only, the homes would stop being empty," and so on. But yeah, those are pieces of the puzzle, but I'm talking about the whole puzzle here. We need more pieces,
So why, I saw you guys put out a meme or like a little post or whatever, and it said, when people think that if mainlanders or outsiders would stop buying homes, it would fix Hawaii's housing problem. But it's not true, or something like that, or how'd it go? It's I don't like things that aren't true, or whatever. And
well, we did a study on that. That's why.
But I get it. Again, I'm not an economist. I don't know policy well, but I do know if you live on a little island, like let's say Chinaman's Hat, you had 10 houses, and someone from the mainland buys one. Then the local person got to move off Chinaman's Hat and into Honolulu or whatever. So that's very oversimplified economics.
It's a factor,
but
absolutely.
There's some element of we do real estate, and we do well in the relocation game. We are ambassadors of Aloha, and I'll tell a story later about Mahe and how we reconcile this. But I would love to hear why it makes sense to me. Viscerally, primitively, basically, generically, it makes sense that if mainland people would stop buying houses and Hawaii people were able to keep the houses, the cost would go down and more local people could stay and not have to move to Vegas, West Coast, etc. Why is that not true?
Well, we looked at every state too, same thing. And we looked at the number of people who are buying homes from out of state. And the same thing's true. It's flipped. It's the other way around. States that have high numbers of people buying homes from outside actually have low home prices, and vice versa. States with low numbers of people buying from outside have high home prices. Hawaii is like this anomaly that's way out there.
It's because of what it is, right? It's a paradise, so people want to be here.
Right. And
so people with a lot of money can come and drop the iron hammer and say, I want that house, I'm taking it.
And if you look at the number of people who are actually buying from outside, it's around 20%, of mainlanders who are buying homes in Hawaii.
Is that including military relocating?
I'm not sure about that.
Because that would be a big factor. Like 25% or so of Hawaii loans are VA loans. Now, some are retirees, et cetera, but active duty members make up for a lot of, they participate in the economy at large. Like, let military stop spending for a week and see what happens in Hawaii, right? Yeah. But so sorry, you said around
So around 20% is mainlanders. Around 3% is foreign, from other countries.
Only 3%.
Around more. Yeah, okay. People think it's more, but it's going down, I think. And then 75% around is locals.
Wow.
And so it's actually the people who are buying homes in Hawaii are locals mostly.
Wow.
And it's just like, I'm buying a home, and my wife, her mom has a home, but we're not going to, live in her home. We want to buy our own home, know, and so, it's locals who are, and if I go to a lot of these open houses and stuff, looks like locals to me, So there's a lot of, there's some who are mainlanders or foreigners and things like that, but
how has that changed over? Because I know COVID just, for many reasons, created a housing boom. Low interest rates, so free money was one of the reasons. But also people were forced to, there's pandemic planning, and people were forced to make decisions. Like, life is short. I want to live in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I need a fourth bedroom. I'm going to move to Ewa, to the suburbs. There's all these reasons why people shuffled post-COVID, intra and post-pandemic. But one of them, and we've seen it in our business, are tech workers or people who have the ability to work virtually saying, well, shit, if I can work virtually, Hawaii looks pretty good.
Yeah,
Hawaii's pretty major. And so how do you know how those numbers were pre-COVID? Was it less than 20% pre-COVID?
So a decade ago, there was a lower share of people from the mainland buying there was a higher share of people from the mainland buying than there is today. So it's actually gone down as a percentage. Yes. So you think that it would be the other way around, that if that it used to be lower and now it's more and more, and we're seeing such a bigger share of people from the mainland purchasing homes here, and that's why prices are going up. But it's the other way around. There's a smaller share of people from the mainland as a percentage of all the people who are purchasing homes buying here today.
Really?
And yet prices are still going up. And so you have to ask, okay, yes, it's a factor, if one person buys a home, another person can't, I get that.
Sure.
But as a percentage of the whole pie, it's a small percentage. And like I said, the biggest factor when it comes to the price of housing is we just don't have any. We have it's a supply and demand. Yeah. Across the state, only 5% of the land is zoned to allow for housing.
Right.
Urban zoning at the state level. And of that 5%, about half of that actually has housing on it, around 3%.
Okay.
And so, the rest is like the harbors and the airports.
You're saying statewide.
Statewide.
What about Oahu? It seems like almost all that's zoned residential is developed on Oahu.
Oahu's around 23%.
23 what?
Is zoned for urban.
Okay, and how much of that 100% of 23, how much of it's already developed?
It's about 100%.
Almost all of it, except for the
yeah.
Eva Plain and a few pockets, like
That's
a few individual parcels here.
Yeah,
And there.
there's very few places that are already zoned urban that are undeveloped.
Yeah.
And so, but part of that 23% that I mentioned, a big chunk of it is the harbor and Pearl Harbor and the airports and things that you can't really build housing on.
Yeah.
And so, and then the other rest of that 23%, let's say half of it, even more than, is single family homes. And so, which, that's another controversial topic. It's like, we like everybody wants a single family home.
It's not the most efficient way to house people.
But it's not the most efficient way to house people. Exactly. Yeah. And so, but on that
through
land,
capitalistic progression, more townhomes will be incentivized to be built for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
If I have an acre and I can put 5 townhomes or 1 single family as a builder, I'm going to make more. Now there's R5 zoning, et cetera. But, and if people just can't afford my single families, I don't build them. So if the free market plays out, I mean, we will inevitably have more townhomes.
Yes, that's right. You'd see more low rises, you'd see more townhomes, you'd see more duplexes and things like that. But right now, I mean, the way the laws and the zoning laws work, if your plot of land, which might be 7,500 square feet, is zoned for a single family home, then you can have 1 kitchen on that. And
that's what you have to. But that's interesting because you can't get an ADU approved. Much less build a duplex, a fourplex.
ADUs you can do.
I mean, can, but I'm saying it's hard to.
It's hard.
It's like to get that approved is a problem in Hawaii.
And then, of course, beyond all this, you've got the permitting department. You have to get through that maze, which we have. It's the slowest permitting department in the nation, in Hawaii, and also very corrupt too. So we can talk about that. But
to government versus free, government efficiency or inefficiency versus free market. If people are like, we should increase, oversight of the permitting, we should increase, basically red tape, bureaucracy, thicken the mud that is trying to get permitting done. And I was like, at this point, closer to 40 and having some success and hindsight in business, we should make it more efficient. Because if you're permitting, let's just say hypothetically, permitting was instantaneous. Like it happens that day, whether you're building a building in Ward or you want to put up a gazebo. It happens that day, hypothetically. How could anyone strong arm me or require me to give them an envelope to get my permit?
Yeah, that's right.
There's no incentive
That's
left.
right.
So if you increase efficiency of permitting, there's just no room for people to get paid.
That's right.
It's the inefficiency that breeds the corruption.
So it takes about a year sometimes on Oahu to get a permit. Sometimes 2 years
Not
or
if
longer.
you know the right person.
Or if you have an envelope of cash, as we've seen.
You shop Hallmark, you
That's
get
right.
postcards.
And I was in a town on the mainland, Sandy Springs, Georgia, which I went to their permitting department, and I saw someone standing in line, and he got his permit the same day.
Right.
I talked to the director of the department, and I asked, like, how long does it usually take to get a permit? He's like, oh, maybe a day or two. In Hawaii, it's a year. And so I asked, like, how do you make this quick and efficient? He said that when they have a backlog, they hire a company to get through the backlog.
Dr.
Right?
Andrea Tupola and I talked about this.
Yeah.
Like that would be the most efficient use of money is bring in third-party contractors, lay out the system, the formatting, the guidelines. Don't do bad permitting.
Right, yeah.
But get through the 9,000 file backlog.
Right. And
you
don't have to employ them for all years, years and years and pay all these pension liabilities and things. You just, get them, bring them in the troops when you need them and then fire them when they're done. Right?
I love it.
But the problem is Hawaii has a law that makes that illegal.
Really?
Yeah. We
Why?
have this law that prevents hiring private contractors for things that government workers already do.
Oh.
And so
Hawaii would have that.
yeah.
Right? Like,
it's this quirky law. I've never seen it in any other state. I talked to some people on the mainland. They said, we've never heard of a law like this. it basically makes privatization illegal. And I'm not talking about privatizing the department. I'm talking about temporarily. So you can't do that in Hawaii because of a state law.
Oh my God. I hate it so much. I think of the mindset that is work at the state and no do too much. Mumbai, they're going to give us more work. The 2 people watching, 1 person working, like that represents all of that.
Yeah.
Like keep on gatekeeping, protect what we got, which is a pension.
That's right.
Protect what we got. So we got to hire more inefficiency. I hate it so much.
Yeah. And they actually, a decade ago, more than a decade, they actually passed a law that lifted that rule for a little bit because they wanted to try it. But then it expired, and then now it's back in place.
Did we see progress? How long did it last, and did we see progress in that time?
I think it lasted for 2 years. I don't think it was long enough to actually see.
Affect change.
Yeah. I mean, this could help fix the water systems in Hawaii, which have the same problems. On Maui, they were saying they didn't have enough engineers to get through what they the upcountry water meter list. They can't get people water meters, so they made this list. So now it's like the Hawaiian Home is a big backlog list. You're on this, and they couldn't get through it because they can't hire enough engineers in the civil service. Wow. And so this would be really easy to get through. Same thing, bring in the troops and get through the backlog. So there's so many ways that Hawaii could become more efficient, and it would bring down costs too, except that this crazy law, which it would probably only take, a rewriting of 2 paragraphs or something to change that.
Who would bring forth something like that? A councilman, a senator?
It'd be a state legislator.
A state legislator has to say, there's this thing. I think that could get really popular really quick.
Yeah, I think so.
How can I help?
I think it would be popular too, except that it's so far removed from the actual problems on the ground. I mean, maybe what we just need is better marketing.
That's what I love. So if you're a state legislator, who are the state legislators?
All 76 of them.
Oh, there's 76. I don't know about these things. But if you're a state legislator and you happen to find this, let me know how I can use this media room to help you get that rewritten, because that's ridiculous. So on things that are polarizing, maybe not effective, maybe not good, not probable to happen, et cetera, and around these topics of people moving here from the mainland, let's talk about Brenton Awa. I don't dislike Brenton. I saw him at the Iam Tongi concert. I didn't talk to him. A guy who does YouTube for real estate like me, he's like, how'd you get Andrea Tupoka? And I was like, just asked her. And then he got Brenton. So, props to him. And it was a powerful conversation that kind of made its rounds in Hawaii social media circles. And I would have, Brenton, I invite you on to have a conversation. But when I saw we're going to tax people 100% who are from the main, what was his proposal like?
Oh, I'm not up to speed on that.
Sorry. Are you familiar with it at all?
I saw a little bit of it, but
he was like, we're going to tax people 100% who are from the mainland and buy here. When they sell, they'll have to, basically, we already have a HARPTA and a FERPTA tax. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with those?
Yeah.
So he essentially, I don't know if he wanted to increase HARPTA and FERPTA to 100%. Was that his route maybe?
Yeah.
But I saw a couple of things. I was like, he know that I can pass. That was one thing. 2, I was like, again, I'm pretty ignorant to things, but I feel like that's probably not constitutional. And 3, I don't like, victim mentality doesn't serve anyone. It never has, it never will. You cannot show me a time in history, whether you believe in creationism or evolution, where victim mentality served you. Now, you can go there for a bit. Your dog dies, your dad dies, you bad luck, you lose your wallet. Like, sulk in it, but you got to get out of it because it's not serving you. Mm-hmm. This whole, like you keep saying, tax and legislate your way to affordability and utopia is, I don't believe in it.
Well, and if you're selling it to someone on the mainland, they may be someone who grew up here. They might have been born and raised here, kind of thing. And so, we're keeping out outsiders who have left Hawaii. Now we're calling them outsiders, but I mean, since 2016, we've had tens of thousands of people every year leave the state on net.
Yeah.
There's an outflow happening. I was just in Minnesota last week visiting my brother who left the state, and his neighbor happened to be Hawaiian, a Hawaiian family. And it was just like, well, what are you guys doing here?
Yeah.
And they said it's just too expensive, so they live there now, and where $1 for a dozen eggs and $2 for a gallon of milk and all of that. And, what if that family wanted to come back and buy here? That we would call them outsiders.
That's one of our favorites when local people are moving home. Yeah, and we help them because they see the channel. And sometimes it's like the wife is from Hawaii, the husband's not. So he's like, watch these guys. Watch their real estate channel. Yeah. And, the things he says about, Waianae or Kahala or whatever. And so we love that experience when we bring locals home. But to Brenton's credit, it wasn't like when you buy, there's it was when you sell. So like,
I see. Okay.
But I think it was shot down. It was deemed unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. I understand marketing at a decent level, so I felt like, that's not going to pass, bruh. And I would, again, Brenton, I'd love to have a conversation. What about that? Like, what effect would that have? Have you heard about this? His proposal. Is that the right thing to do to, again, keep mainland people from buying? Should we have incentives so mainland people cannot buy here?
I think I go by the law of unintended consequences. You whatever policy you think it's going to do, it usually does something else too. And so you have to look at the full policy. I need to look at that proposal a little bit more.
Okay.
The whole idea of the whole idea of keeping outsiders out, I'm not really for that. Of course, I'm not really for all of the mainland coming here and displacing everyone, total gentrification.
I've been to
either,
St. Thomas and some of these like Caribbean islands and stuff when I was in the Coast Guard, and it's you see it. You see the imprint of like, wow, this is, at least for a part of the island. And we kind of already see that here in parts of our island, right? Our islands. Mm-hmm. You can dilute the thing that makes that island what it was or what it is, right?
Yeah, I think Hawaii is such a unique place because on the one hand, you've got this argument of keeping outsiders out, but on the other hand, we've got this culture of celebrating our differences too. Mm-hmm. Yes, we all have different ideas. We all come from different backgrounds. We're different races, ethnicities, and cultures, and we want to know, like, where are people from?
Yeah.
What's their perspective? And that's the part of Hawaii that I fell in love with, the part that appreciates just the rainbow of people are different, and let's learn about that. Let's make jokes about each other, let's make fun of each other, and let's have a good time.
But that developed to be, Japanese, Chinese, Filipino, Puerto Rican, Portuguese, and remain that way. And so I don't think, here's the thing. When I left Hawaii, I was like, I'll never find diversity. I'll never find culture. I'll never find good food again. I was crying. I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left because I didn't have it put together. I wasn't finishing school. I would drop out of my classes. I wasn't going anywhere quick. And so I was like, let me go have the Coast Guard pay me to grow up. Mm-hmm. I thought I'd never find diversity again. And then I went to San Francisco. And I was like, oh, this is real diversity. It's probably the same I imagine New York to be. I haven't been to New York. But European, African, East African, West African, Indonesian, Puerto Rican, Brazilian, like everything. And so Hawaii we like to call ourselves diverse, and we're more diverse than most anywhere in America, but we're kind of homogenous too. Like
That's a good point.
We have our handful of cultures, and they've mixed, and they've become one thing, and then we're very protective of that.
Yeah.
In general, my core values are far more towards growth than protecting. Mm-hmm. I don't want to protect my basicness because I have it. I don't want to protect my victimness because I have it. I want to grow away from those things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I don't want Hawaii to change too. I don't want to dilute it. So what do you do? Should we tax more? To Brenton's policy, should we have something like that? Increase harpta and FERPTA? Should we?
Well, I think about local families, right? And
Yeah.
how hard is it to live here? And that's my main audience, and the main person I kind of think about and speak to is, how do we make Hawaii a more livable place where people can actually prosper, have a good life, a good job, and without having to have all their money go down this financial black hole or corruption or bad job opportunities. Like I think about my 2-year-old daughter, and like how can I set her up to be have a better future and everything. And so that's the main thing. And if you are trying to tax one group without taxing the rest, somehow it usually is impossible. It usually bleeds out and affects the rest as well.
Yeah.
So, if we don't build a house for a local family or for someone else, an outsider, that means the local family usually won't get it either. And so I'm okay with allowing more freedom and more liberty. Again, going back to how we started, you own your life, you own your body, you own your property. And as long as you don't infringe on the rights of others, you should be able to do what you want with that, as long as it's legal and everything. And I want people to have a good life in that space rather than in making all these infringements. So
I'm with you. I look at, so I grew up, I was on the mainland. I came to Hawaii when I was 9. I ended up staying and going to intermediate and high school here. And so I went back and forth a few times, stayed. And so that was the first big hard decision I ever made, was like to leave my mom, go to Hawaii. But my dad came over here. Long story short, I chose hard decisions, and I chose to join the Coast Guard. And I hated the Coast Guard. The way people would talk to me, I said, but I grew so much. I never had this like I'm never leaving Hawaii. I've never left Hawaii. I'm not gonna leave Hawaii. I think it's good to leave Hawaii. I think our past, monarchy, they would leave to grow and expand. And I've always just kind of leaned towards growth and competition. I like competing in the economy. And I think that the reason, I don't know, and so I apologize if I'm messing anything up, but I think the reason Bernice Pauahi Bishop founded Kamehameha Schools was not to grow politicians who would create these super left-leaning policies, but to create well-rounded, competitive citizens and for the Western world, because she knew that's where we were headed or already were, right? And so I always go back to, it's hard. It's hard to exist in Hawaii. My dream when I came back was to come back to Hawaii, get a job at Palimomi, and make $40 an hour and buy a house, and that was my dream as a 18-year-old. My dreams have since, just glass ceilings have been shattered, and I want to do so much more. But I knew it would take a lot of hard shit. It would take me joining the Coast Guard, growing, whatever that meant, changing my mindset, getting a degree. I don't know, although I don't believe that much in degrees now, but getting, growing in some matter. It's not the 1800s pre-industrial revolution. We're not pre-electricity. We're not pre-plumbing. It could be either 400 AD. It could be, so every day I write, like at the bottom of my legal pad, I write this gratitude. And it says, I'm grateful for this day on earth in Hawaii in 2023. Because, bro, we have AC, we have cars, I can text, I can, FaceTime. So, yeah, it's hard, but compared to what? Compared to what?
Yeah.
And you have to have people used to have to make it through a winter. Now, people picture, Hawaii was utopia, no more winters. But, bro, living off the land is not easy. And so, I guess it's hard. But if you shift the mindset from protectionism and victim mentality, maybe you shift it a little more towards growing and competing. Yeah. That's how I choose to solve problems. I've seen it work for me. Not naturally. My mom, rest in peace, she just victim every day, all day. It didn't serve her, though. I think it helped her get to an early grave.
I see.
Some of the people that work with me, they grew up around this, small victimness. They get around me parroting the books I've read and the mentors I've had and say like, let's compete, let's be better, you're better. And they're like they said, their lives are different now on the other side of that. So isn't that the more of the solution that I think you and I share is like, let's just be better. Doesn't mean you have to lose aloha. Doesn't mean you have to not take off your shoes in the house. Doesn't mean you have to not always bring something, even though you can hardly afford, but maybe bring the rice. Like you can keep local customs and compete in 2023 and buy homes and keep them and keep Hawaii through that, not through bills and taxes and all these things, right?
It's hard to live here, but I can't imagine making Hawaii so easy to live that you could just, sit back in your chair and just, make it easy. It's always going to be hard to live in Hawaii. The cost of living is always going to be higher than on the mainland. Yeah. But how much so? I mean, right now it's double, triple, quadruple, depending on what you're looking at. Do we want it to be quintuple or, how high is this supposed to go? And all the, think about Hawaiians. You were talking about Hawaiians. Studies show most Hawaiians actually have moved away and live on the mainland now. And so our culture right now is moving away in a sense. And
our people are one of our biggest exports, right?
Right. And yes, we can blame outsiders for that, but what about looking at ourselves? What are our policies that cause that to happen? Building one home so that this person doesn't buy it means that these 3 other people aren't able to look at it, Yeah. And so I'm okay with allowing more housing, even if even if it means keeping the 5% of the land, keeping that the same. I'm just talking about making a single family home into a duplex, a 2-family home, or maybe using that 5% and allowing a low rise on there or something. And so we don't necessarily have to use more land to build houses. We can use the land we already have. But even if we did use more land, it wouldn't be, tons and tons. You could increase that 5% to 6% or something. That would cause home prices to go down. Probably so significantly, by the way, that people would worry. Now you'd see people worrying that prices are going down, right?
Well, the thing that makes real estate prices go down is excess supply.
Right.
So we all have this 2008 recency bias, so we think the market's gonna explode and the bottom's gonna fall out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But the things that made that happen, the mortgage corruption, the AAA rated bonds, and blah blah blah, it led to an excess supply of inventory. So when there's 1,000 homes for 100 buyers, the 100 buyers have the leverage, right? We don't have a situation right now that's going to create that.
Right.
That I know of. Yeah. I don't know what you see.
I mean, unless there's some macroeconomic black swan event that we can't predict, it does seem that, things are just going to keep getting more expensive.
Right.
And unless, even if they did build more housing, I don't think that it would, cause a big drop in home prices like I was talking about anyways.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about building a bit more housing so that we can make it more affordable to live here. And I don't mind who lives in that house, Yes, it'd be nice for locals to be in there, but at the end of the day, if you spend all your time trying to keep out this person, you're going to keep out everyone else too.
Yeah. And also how you can't have 2 things at the same time sometimes. You can't have excuses and results. You can't have huge ego and growth because ego gets in the way of growth. There's these things that have inverse relationships. If you're only focused on protecting and reducing, like these policies that keep out mainland people, that protect it so that you don't have to work harder, so you don't have to do more or grow. Maybe work harder, work smarter, whatever the case may be. Move towards prosperity. You want to just stay where you're at, keep the status, maintain the status quo and protect it, then you literally can't be growing. And unfortunately for those people, we just don't live. We live in a Western capitalistic economy. We don't have a culture. I don't think you can. Here's another thing I tell some people, I have this conversation. Scandinavia and Japan both have good schools, right? Good test scores, whatever. Yeah. Scandinavia, they like limit, like almost no, like try to avoid homework, try to avoid too much school. Japan, it's like, get my kid extra homework. You're not giving them enough homework, right? In fact, and go learn English.
That's right.
Both have, the data shows they both have, high test scores. But I don't think you can apply Scandinavian principles to Japan and Japanese principles to Scandinavia and get the same outcome.
Yeah.
I think in some really nuanced way, the way their application is conducive to their culture and their economy.
Yeah.
Our culture and our economy can't be do the minimum, cruise them, Heinekens, green bottles. That's not domestic, by the way. That's not brewed in Hawaii. Spam. Don't worry about nitrates and, trans fats or whatever. Like, you cannot be frivolous.
Yeah.
And
our culture is we have to work hard because that's the only way to live here. A lot of people are taking 2 jobs or 3 jobs. I mean, you've got the Alice family of, a household making less than 100K is basically just one step above poverty.
Yeah.
And that's the culture. It's like 30% of the population in Hawaii. That's what it is. And so anyone moving here or wanting to buy a house here, I want them to know all of Hawaii, all of the aspects besides just the postcard. We've got among the highest taxes when it comes to many things. We've got all these debts, and that's going to turn into taxes. It's the hardest place to start a business, and so on. Tell me about it. So just as long as people know all of that and also respect the culture and everything. If you,
I don't have time to lay out the numbers right now, but if you, they call it house hacking now. Have you ever heard of the term house hacking?
No, what's that?
So there's this other podcast called Bigger Pockets. It's really what laid the foundation for my career in real estate because I was a would-be real estate investor. And they coined this term house hacking. So when you're a young person or an older person, get roommates. Bring people in, have them pay for rooms. Hawaii, we had certain cultures been doing this in Waipahu and Kalihi for quite a while, right?
That's true.
To make ends meet and then build wealth from there. So why have a house to the mantra of, hey, why are houses sitting empty? Why are you in rooms sitting empty? Rent it to someone, take that $600 of positive cash flow a month, save it, learn how to foster it and grow it, reinvest it, house hack until you don't have to anymore. So we have a young guy out there, Aiden, 21 years old, and he understands this concept. So his whole goal is, and he's working with the lender already, his whole goal is to make enough this year, make enough next year, so that he can justify through his tax returns to buy a home the following year. And he's going to house hack until he cannot stand it anymore, or he can get a new asset. He'll be a millionaire by the time he's 30.
Wow.
And local people can do that. Just, be smarter. Work hard, be smart. I know I'm biased by real estate, right? Maybe it's the number one wealth building vehicle in the country, but we make enough money, I think.
That's a good point.
It would be nice if we made more. So I used to be in the medical field, and Northern California, highest paid nurses and x-ray techs and stuff in the nation by far. Costs about the same to live here, but pay is about 20-25% less. It can be a lot less.
Yeah.
So people are like, you fancy realtor, you don't know how it is for us guys, but I do because I've lived that. If I had just bought real estate and house hack sooner, I'd be worth multiple millions right now. When I moved home, I thought I was cool, right? Coast Guard, hey, how you doing, bro? How things been? Coffee, lunch. Oh, good. And I joined the Coast Guard and got a couple degrees or whatever. And then people, that's cool. Yeah, bro. Like last time I saw you and was 21, my uncle got me into the whatever job. And I just, moved up from there. And now I'm supervisor or not, whatever. Bought a house, bought another house. I joined one of these, companies that teach you how to pay off your house sooner with HELOCs and learned how to pay off my house sooner. I'm on my 3rd house now. And I started doing the math and I'm like, so you're worth $1 million, $2 million cash flow. And they just kept it simple. They just saved their money, maybe got roommates, bought a house, bought another one.
Oh, cool.
More people could buy homes and stay here and
Well,
not have to
yeah.
leave.
You know, outsiders aren't the only ones investing in Hawaii, by the way. You know,
Hawaiians.
You know, residents are wanting to buy their second home. You know, they move into the second home, they put they rent the first home, right?
Yeah.
And it's a ladder. You know, this is how the housing ladder works is, you know, my wife and I are in a 1-bedroom condo. We've got a 2-year-old, you know, so where do you put the 2-year-old? When she's crying at night, she wakes us all up. We're all in the same room, right? And we're looking for a 2-bedroom now. So is that an investment? You know, we want to keep the first condo and we want to get a 2-bedroom. So now what are we? Outside investors, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and so, you know, and then after that, what's next? And, you know, this is part of the culture of Hawaii too. I mean, look at many of the, especially Asian cultures, have it in their sort of principle to only own, never rent, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how, you know, the Chinese own all of Chinatown now, you know, it's because of that
Nobody
mentality.
is mad at them. It's called Chinatown. They buy the buildings. Nobody's mad about it.
And many of them came here, you know, in the Cultural Revolution, fleeing communism, fleeing a place where people took all of their land, you know, and took all of their businesses, you know, my wife's family exactly that way. And started here as street, you know, janitors and you know, cooks, and now they own property. And they are investors in Hawaii, you know, and so it's not just outside investors; it's inside investors too.
What would happen if you could only own one home? You can't buy another one.
Well, that's what they're trying to do now.
But what would that result in?
That would chop off the legs of the housing ladder, basically. It would prevent people from building wealth and nest egg for their family. You know? It would rob Hawaii families of the ability to move upward. And so it would actually probably see more Hawaii families leaving and more outsiders coming here.
Why is that?
Because, you know, if you don't have a future, why would you stay? You know? So, you know, if they make a law where you're not allowed to, or we're going to tax the heck out of your second home or third home or something, why would Hawaii families, you know, trying to build their...
Well, let me give you a counter. I just keep my home in Kaneohe or Mililani or wherever I live, and I just go invest out of state in Texas, Kansas City, Idaho. I just buy houses over there. And I build wealth over there while I own my one over here.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, everyone's different. It could happen. That's true.
Yeah.
But
because principally, I throw that counter out because I don't want to just act like I'm higher and mighty than the people that are just thinking of basic generic things to try and make it easier for people to live. I do want to ease the burden too.
Yeah,
but the thing is, do it through more taxes.
We're not really investing in Hawaii. I'm talking about my family now, to be investors. We're doing it as a part of our life. You know, this is how we're living our life. Is, you know, we need a 2-bedroom, otherwise we keep waking up at night, you know? And so it's not that we're like, if we don't buy a second home here, we're going to like look in Texas to like have some rental property in Timbuktu that we can manage from afar or something. You know, that's a hassle. So it would be better to just leave in that case. And, you know, we actually kind of thought a little bit about that, looking at the home prices on the mainland, like, whew, you know, your salary goes down 20%, but the housing goes down by 75%.
And here's the thing too, local people. It's a one-way. It's hard. It's an uphill battle to get back.
It's a one-way ticket.
So
that's
you're talking about Minnesota. There's I don't know if those people were in like the oil or refinery business.
Oh, Minnesotans? I'm not sure.
No, the Hawaiians who were in Minnesota. The neighbors,
I don't know. Yeah.
I've known of a couple of people that work in like Campbell Industrial, and they get these refinery jobs in Minnesota because this Minnesota company like recruits them twice a year or whatever. So one of my friends, David, he was thinking about selling his home, and I was like, "Are you sure, bro? Like, let's run the numbers on what it would cost to rent it, what your projected appreciation would be." Let's think about it. And he's like, nah, but I want to buy in Minnesota, and I can't buy unless I sell this one. And I was like, yeah, but you could start out renting in Minnesota, because if you wanted to come back, you have this as an anchor. You may not never make it back. And here's the thing, like, that's as a real estate agent, oh, you want to leave, sell your house? Perfect. 2.5 to 3% on my side.
Yeah.
We'll get it sold. I would love to help anyone out there who wants to sell their house for the right reasons. But also, if I see that it may not be the best decision for you, I'm going to like challenge you, like keep your home. So if you do have to go to the mainland, try keep your Hawaii home. And then with Brenton's policy, I don't know, maybe you're on the mainland for a few years and you decide, I got to sell this thing. Would you be taxed 100% on all your capital gains? I don't.
Right.
That's not good too.
Yeah.
For local people that just want to go to their mom on the mainland and help take care of them or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
You want to keep Hawaii so that local people can come back too. And selling your home makes it harder. Keep that house. So if you ever going to sell your place and go to the mainland, don't hire me as your agent. Just keep it. Keep it, because that helps to keep Hawaii Hawaiian.
Okay, good advice.
And helps you to build wealth, right? Helps you to build wealth. Let's hit on one more. You said it's a hard place for businesses.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I've owned multiple businesses in Hawaii. Most people hear about GE tax. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is GE? There's only like one other state that has a general excise tax.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
it's not a common
It's
thing.
not a common tax. Yeah, it's a quirk. It's a weird thing. It's like a sales tax, but not exactly. So Hawaii has a 4% general excise tax, which is levied on all goods and services at every step in the production chain. So if you have a baker, they're taxed when they buy their, the flour, and then they sell it to the distributor who's taxed, and then who sends it to the retailer who's taxed, and then to the consumer who's taxed. So that tax racks up in the price of the product. So you might see on the shelf, oh, it's only 4%, but actually some of that tax is already built into the actual price of the product because of before. So of course, we've got the rail, which adds a 0.5 to that 4, so the actual tax is 4.5. The 0.5 is the rail, and that
really,
yeah. So that's what that 0.5 is for to pay for the rail.
Okay.
And so and all the other counties have their own, because they all said we want to do the 0.5 too. So they all are adding their own 0.5s.
Oh, for what? To help with? I'm sure Kauai is not helping with Oahu's rail.
Actually, it is.
Actually,
it is. Yes, you've got, because they're doing it through the transient accommodations tax, which is a tourism tax.
Oh yeah.
And so
I pay that.
So the tourist tax on all the islands, some of that goes to the rail, actually.
Really?
So in a way, all the islands are paying for the rail in a sense.
Oh,
through
Kauai, Maui, Big Island, Molokai.
Yeah,
I'm sure you guys
right.
love that one.
Yeah.
Lanai.
That's right. And so, but anyways, going back to the general excise tax, it's, if you calculate how much of it is actually stacked into the price of the product, it's like, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. Sometimes they've done studies. And so even though it looks like 4, it's actually probably 10, and which is a very high sales tax when you think about it. And, again, I was on the mainland. There are states that don't have any sales tax on many, groceries or clothing or things like that.
Or no income tax.
Or no income tax.
Some have no income, no sales. Devil's advocate again. It's really what I love, being devil's advocate.
Good.
But
I love it.
Texas, very high property tax.
Right.
People, freedom, liberties.
Yeah.
It's not the state of Texas. It's the People's Republic of Texas. You know. Mm-hmm. But because there's an absence of these other taxes, they have some of the highest property tax in especially of a red state.
Yeah.
I mean, New Jersey, Illinois, like these places have high property tax, but Texas is that high, like in the top 10 or 5.
Oh yes.
And it's a red state.
Yeah.
See, the money's got to come from somewhere, right?
Right. But for business though, if you're trying to run a business and you've got this big sales tax basically, and you also have a high income. We've got the second highest income tax in the nation.
I think for earners over $250,000, we're the highest.
Yes, absolutely.
And especially
That's
if you're
true.
1099 income, because now you have the GE tax earning on top of it.
Right.
So something happened last year or year before, where we became the highest above California for high earners, over 250,000.
For a certain bracket, absolutely.
Yeah. The poverty line is what?
Oh, I'm
It's
not
like-
sure. 40,000, 50,000, something like that.
Oh, I think the
For
the
a
poverty
family?
line was set by the HUD or whatever in
Thir-
San Francisco at like 111. It was like 115 here or something.
Oh, okay.
And
For
so
a family.
yeah, I forget how it all works out, but we have very high poverty line, like a six-figure
That's right.
quote unquote
Yeah.
poverty line. And so what is 250 going to do, especially after all that tax? 250,000. I mean, I know people are like the pretentiousness of you to say that, Derek, right? But you're making 250 for a family, so the husband and wife that make 125. So a nurse and a lieutenant, or a nurse and like a GS-12 or something, like they're not living up Hawaii Lower Ridge, you know what I mean, on that, unless they've
Yeah.
made business investments.
Well, and the problem is that
250 is not that much, is my point.
And now we've got inflation too, right?
Yeah.
So everyone in the lower brackets is getting pushed into those higher brackets because, the inflation is just pushing them up that way. And so unless we fix that, like peg the brackets to the inflation, we're all going to get pushed into the highest bracket,
Yeah.
So that's what we tried to do this last round, but whew, that's a confusing thing to explain to people, though.
Taxes and inflation, especially inflation, hurt the poor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, yeah.
It really does. It hurts.
Right.
It hurts the middle class, the lower middle class poor. I explain inflation in the real estate realm and business realm, like those like say this was a booth where they turn on the air and all the dollars swirl. Now tell me if this is right
Chuck
or
E.
not.
Cheese, right? Okay.
Yeah, like all the
yeah.
money swirls and you're not
Ticket
allowed,
blaster.
You have to grab it.
Right.
You have to grab it.
Yeah.
And then when they turn off the air, the blowing air, that money starts to just fall. But you're not allowed to pick it up off the ground. That's the rule, right? You're not allowed to pick it up off the ground.
Oh, that's funny.
But you can like take your shirt.
Yeah.
So if you have a bucket to catch this falling money from the air, that is quantitative easing and inflation, you have a bucket, you'll catch it and you'll get rich. You'll prosper. Those buckets are assets.
Mm-hmm.
They're real estate and businesses.
Oh, that's a good analogy, yeah.
If you don't have any buckets, everything's more expensive because the air turned off. People who had buckets got wealthier.
Yeah.
But now bread is
That's right.
$18. Now gas is $17. And you were bucketless during this inflationary period.
Yeah, the people who win during inflationary times are those with assets.
Those with assets.
And governments win too because their budgets go way up. So, and that's where the surplus came from. Getting to your earlier thing is, like, where did this surplus come
Yeah,
from?
how does Hawaii have a surplus? Are we just amazed? Is Robert Kiyosaki running the state of Hawaii? Like, what's going on?
It's because when inflation goes up, the tax revenues go up too. If a cost of bread costs $1 more, then the tax on that is more, that you get, and so the government gets more money.
Yeah.
And so, so that's where a huge chunk of the surplus came from. It's just like, surprise, we have all this money. We had $2 billion at the beginning of the year for this year, and that was going to grow to $10 billion in just a few years. That's that's bigger than the budget itself. Like you could run the whole state if you had $10 billion, you could actually run the whole government, without even collecting taxes at all. So it's a lot of money, and it all vanished though. It all disappeared.
What?
Because the economic forecast went down. Spending went up. They said we want to spend on this and that and this and that. They had all these different pet projects they wanted to spend on. And so poof, all of the money went away. So now thankfully Governor Josh Green actually cut some of that spending down, and that now we have a surplus
so
again.
a Democrat, right?
Yes, exactly.
And cutting spending.
He cut spending, and that actually was the fiscally responsible thing to do.
Wow.
So, I have to give credit where credit's due. You know?
Yeah.
He did something good. And so that might
Good
actually...
job, Governor.
So whenever you see surplus in your mind, think tax breaks, right? Because that's the money that they could give taxes back to you from, right?
Yeah.
So they could actually lower taxes, and then some of that money would come from the surplus.
Yeah.
So that's why it's good to have a surplus, cash flow, right?
Yeah.
So the government's cash flow can actually get back to the people.
How did he cut it? Did he cut it for like, did he cut it evenly? Did he cut it in a way that
No.
made sense?
Yeah. He well, we have this rainy day fund too, which has $1.5 billion. That's another, it's kind of another surplus in a way. And they were gonna spend another 500 million in that. So it would have been 2 billion. And then he chopped that in half and said, no, we don't really need to put more in the rainy day fund. We have way, way more than we need. So, which I actually agree with. Like, we went into the pandemic with 300 million in the rainy day fund, and we survived, So now we have 1.5 billion in the rainy day fund. So yeah, there's too much money there. So he cut from that, and then he cut a bunch of little pet projects that legislators had, and like they wanted to build what was it? An emergency management. You know how it's in Diamond Head right now? It's
no,
like,
I didn't.
so
Do we have like a bunker in there?
You remember when the stray missile, the false missile alert happened? A few years ago.
That was like right before I moved home. Yeah.
So when that false missile alert happened, that was HIEMA, which is the Emergency Management Agency.
Okay.
That's in Diamond Head Crater. That's where that is. It's
Really?
like underneath the Earth's crust in there.
Okay.
So it's like the secret location, but everybody knows where it is.
Oh,
So,
even more now.
so he wanted to move that, but anyway, he cut that spending too. So
He said no need.
no need.
No need.
No need. Yeah.
Hey, wow, good job.
Yeah. Good job, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
You the whole property tax inflation thing and how the government makes more money. Property assessed values went up so much through the pandemic. So it used to be at the start of the pandemic, my numbers might be a little off, but it's like some clients would be like, well, tax assessed is 800. And we'd be like, yeah, but you can't do that. Tax assessed is always less than market value, probably 5%, give or take, maybe more. Now we are seeing some homes sell for less than assessed value.
Oh,
Just because assessments came out early last year or whatever with the new values.
I see.
And then interest rates went up first quarter into second quarter. Market shifted right as rates. So things were assessed, like your home's all of a sudden assessed at $1 million. It's like, it was just 800. You assessed me at $1 million. You go to sell it, maybe 970. And I don't know if it's ever been like that, but I know it hasn't been like that for a long time.
I see.
And so, yeah, although we have a low property tax rate, when you figure, like, they didn't really do anything different to get paid more, just values went up. The property tax department, they're doing pretty good right now.
Yeah, they're sitting pretty.
They're the
That's
golden childs for the governor, I'm sure, or the mayor, or whoever.
Yeah.
Wow. Anything else you want to get across on this? I would welcome you back anytime. I think
I'm good. We're just trying to make Hawaii policy easier to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got our perspective, and we say the word should. Like government should be accountable, and taxes should be lower, and things like that. So, but really, no matter what your position is, no matter what your view is, we'll tell you what we think, and we just want to be able to explain Hawaii to everyone, and so we can have an informed electorate. And an informed public makes a better democracy. So
I love it. Yeah. And what do you guys do? Like, you have an Instagram that's really popular. What's the Instagram handle?
Grassroot Hawaii.
Grassroot Hawaii. You have a YouTube channel that you're working on growing.
That's called Hawaii Matters.
Hawaii Matters.
Yeah.
We'll talk about branding later.
Branding.
Don't make it hard. Like,
I know.
Here's the thing. Nike has what? Nike golf, Nike basketball,
Yeah.
Nike skateboard. They don't call it something entirely different.
Yeah, we need to learn from
We
you.
can talk about that. But so you guys have content for people to consume. But what else do you do? Your assistant was saying you sometimes will be called to consult policymakers. Will ask you, hey, what's your opinion?
Yes.
What do you guys do?
We have a bunch of nerds in a room with calculators who basically try to analyze any policy that anybody wants. So sometimes lawmakers call us up and be like, can you give us a report on this or something? And we'll just do it for free. sometimes when people just on the street say, hey, you guys should research this, we will, because we think it's interesting. But always with the view of how do we find solutions to a more affordable Hawaii that don't always involve growing the government more. That's the first thing everyone thinks, like, oh, if the government just did this, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to take the opposite approach and say, if the government just didn't do this, then could that be a solution somehow?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like being a fighter with one arm tied behind your back and trying to, like, fight. And that's kind of what we're doing.
It's interesting. I think that the left-leaning fiscal policies are easy to process.
Oh, yes.
Tax more, make easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are just as compassionate, probably more.
Oh, I think that one died there.
No, just this memory card's full, but you guys can keep talking.
And probably so just as compassionate and probably more compassionate. But you guys want good for Hawaii. You do want Hawaii to preserve its culture. You do want, but not through exclusion of other people. You do want local people to be able to stay here. You want a more affordable Hawaii for Hawaiians and humans alike, right? Or not alike. You know what I mean? Like everyone.
Everyone,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
You guys just want to do good for Hawaii. So I appreciate you. We came together through some Instagram exchange or something, and I'm a fan of you guys. How can people donate, get involved, contact
so
you?
Get on our email list. We have 39,000 people on our email list right now.
Wow, really?
Yeah, we've been trying to grow it, and we have a high open rate, and people who want to learn about what's going on every week, we tell you what's going on behind the scenes. What does this new policy mean? Let's break it down so a kindergartner can understand,
Yeah.
If you're busy, just get on our TikTok, which is Oahu Joe or something, and we'll explain stuff to you in 15 seconds. So, but yeah, go to our website, grassrootinstitute.org, and get on our email list.
Okay. And if someone just was compelled from this conversation, wanted to make a donation, they can do it on your website?
Yep. Go to our Grassroot
Do you guys have any
Institute.
events that people can sign up for this white coat dinner? And
we have all kind of events. We go to all the different islands, and so just get on our email list and you'll hear about them.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.